unmute to start with. Yes.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, thank you. I can't see what your first name is. Is it Marie?
It's Monica.
Monica. Hi, Monica. You're the first one to be here today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for
You're
coming.
welcome.
We may have up to 100 people.
Very
The room may be full. And so I'm very excited about this. This is something that I just pulled together over like the last 3 days. So I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm just basically going to be just really authentic and sharing my experience. And I've been studying all of the questionnaires that came back that I got before last night. And so I have a good idea of questions. We'll also, if we have time, do some live questions. So hello, everybody. Please, if you could possibly put your videos on, and you can unmute yourself for now. That would be great. So we could all just get a chance to get a little comfy with each other and get to know each other a little bit. Hello, everybody. Hello, Leanne. I'm starting to see some familiar names that I'm very happy about. That's great. Thank you all for being here. And we're expecting up to maybe 100 people. So, yeah, I had a great response. This started out with one person who responded in the beginning. And I thought, well, if I'm doing it, why don't we just do it for more people? And I wasn't expecting such a response. So pull this together in 3 days for you. So it's really, I'm just going to be giving you my authentic experience, as well as I've spent time looking at the surveys that have come in, the questionnaires, and put together some of the information. And I've kind of created an order to today. And we've still got a few more minutes. So we'll just spend this time sort of just getting to know each other, getting comfortable with the faces popping up. And it's so great to see you all. I want to let you know that I really appreciate who you are and what you're doing, helping the residents at your facility. I have been an activities person in the sense of I've come in and done entertainment for people in facilities such as yours for the past 25 years as a musician. My main instrument is harp. I also play flute and do some storytelling. And my motive was always to make each resident feel as if I was there just to visit them. And that was nice, and that was very fun to do and quite easy to do when I was doing it live. It's a little different now with virtual, but I'm still doing that. And that might be how you've seen me on the Facebook page, is talking about my virtual concerts. So today, though, we're going to be talking about aromatherapy. And I'll tell you a little bit about me while we have people coming on, and then people can watch the rerun if they want to see that. But so I have spent most of my life living my passion. I've been a musician, an artist. I've studied a lot of spiritual paths and acted and practiced a lot of spiritual practices, as well as vibrational practices. And I'm very much into art for healing, all of the art modalities for healing. And so that's how aromatherapy comes in. About 6 years ago now, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had the greatest experience of my life with it. Fortunately, because I had so many spiritual practices that I was familiar with, I trusted them and I used those and was able to bypass a double mastectomy and take on these other practices. I did have 2 lumpectomies, but it was nothing like having a double mastectomy, as you probably are all quite aware of. And I was also able to bypass radiation. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that or you should recommend that, but one of the tools that I use, I just like to share that that is possible for people to have a wonderful experience, a pain-free experience going through something like that. And that sometimes the biggest challenges we have are going to be the best thing that ever happened for us. And so I am a live witness to that. We often hear that, but we don't always get to live that. So Up until then, I had not lived that. So that was a very wonderful thing. So I welcome you all into that reality if you don't already have that experience yourself. And I'm not telling you that to brag, but just to hopefully inspire you to deepen that within yourselves. So after I had gone through the process with the cancer, hello everybody. You can just hone in. Please put on your camera so that we kind of just get to know each other a little bit personally and get familiar with this community that's here today. And so I'm just talking a little bit about my history, and it will be on the replay. So you can watch it later if you're interested in how I came around the aromatherapy. So I had before I had the journey with cancer, I had liked aromatherapy. It was really nice, as we all feel that way because we're here, right? But I never realized the power of it before I had the journey with cancer. When I had the journey with cancer, I started using it and I found out somebody messaged me about frankincense. So I started using it and I used it in a very sacred way. And I'll be telling you when more people are here about that. Please feel free to put your sounds on and also. Okay, I'll also put your camera on if you can. Thank you, Lodi. So anyhow, so after I had gone through that journey, oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm also a music practitioner. So I'm trained to play bedside for people who are in all stages of either living or passing, from preemies to people who are all different ages, and all different kinds of health situations. So after I had gone through that journey with the cancer, I got a phone call from a hospital that I had been wanting to work at. It was one that I really admired, and asking me to be part of their team. They had a beautiful team. The other hospital I was working at, I was the only person in the healing art department. I was the healing arts department, and I was there mostly for the music, but they gave me freedom to do anything I wanted there. This other hospital, Hospital 2, they had an ongoing and active therapeutic arts department. And one of the modalities that they had already established was aromatherapy. And I was delighted because I believed that because I had been using the frankincense, I had realized that I did not need the double mastectomy, and that indeed I had probably had a miracle according to the dream. So I woke up in the morning and called my surgeon and said, I'm not going to have that double mastectomy. I've had a miracle. And she said, sure, everybody has miracles when they're going to have a double mastectomy and they don't want to do it. So that started a conversation and led me down a journey. But I really believed that because of the quality of frankincense in particular, it activates the pineal gland. And so my dream was a very powerful one. I've always read my dreams, and so this one I felt was the truth and was willing to go on that. I believed it was the frankincense, and I will share with you later how I used it, if not another time, if not today, another time, just for time's sake. But when I heard that they had. Thank you, Crystal. Thanks for acknowledging that you don't have your camera. If you do have cameras, please put them on so that we can be people rather than just names. And so she had a program where she had, let me see, the oils that she had in her program were lavender, which is like number one in popularity, according to the questionnaires. A lot of people use lavender. I think I had 6 people. I'll pull that up later. Peppermint, which is also popular, and lemon, and as well as ginger. Each one of them having a wonderful experience. Now, they did not have frankincense at the hospital. Frankincense is a lot more expensive, but it is something that I do recommend, particularly if you have people who are end of life, because of the activation of the pineal gland. Lavender is really great for calming. Lavender is great if you have bites. One person put that in their survey, that they would use it for that. Peppermint is really great for tummy upset. It's great for other things. I use it if I have a headache or an ache, pain. It doesn't cover the problem. It actually changes your inflammation. It's really good for inflammation. All of these act on inflammation. And if you have any disease, like so many diseases are called ending in itis, which actually simply means inflammation. So, there's a use for essential oils. Lemon is really great. It's like liquid joy, liquid sunshine. And quite a few people said they use citrus. They weren't specific on which citrus, but lemon is really great. All of the citruses have a joyful, that I think they all grow in the sun. And, so you see, the essential oils are beautiful. What they are, you know what they are in one sense, and you may know what I'm going to tell you. I'm not meaning to speak down to anybody, but I don't want anybody to miss these parts of information that I feel are very important. You see, what essential oil is, it's nature, parts of nature, plants, and sometimes trees, sometimes just flowers or just green plants that have absorbed the sun. They've absorbed all of their different elements, the sun, the water, the earth, and the heat of the sun, all of it, right? And it is their own unique expression of the combination of elements that it has lived and lived through it. Do you understand what I'm meaning there? Just like we're all our unique combination of our experiences of life, both, our genetic and the experiences that we've had, so are these plants, and they come to us in these little bottles. And in these bottles is perhaps thousands of a plant, and so it's like a huge community. So I always treat it with great respect because it is, in a sense, a live being that has had a journey before it came to me. It is of service. It is not a slave. It is volunteering. It is here. Volunteering, use me, please use me. And so I honor it. I don't shake it up. I treat the bottle with care. And I let a drop come out, one drop at a time. And I thank the plant for its service. So I have a relationship with it. And this is what I did with the frankincense. And this is how it goes beyond, I'll just put some on just so I smell nice or just because it smells nice. It has so many more levels to it. So if you treat it with this kind of respect, you're going to get many more benefits out of it. It's going to be a much more holistic experience. So I invite you to that. Of course, you don't have to do it, but I'm not here to tell you what to do, but to hopefully inspire you to take it to another level. And this is for your own personal use. And also you can share this with your residents. Another one that I used at the hospital was ginger, because I was also playing in the chemo unit. Ginger is really good for vomiting, for nauseousness. So if you have a resident who's suffering from feeling nauseous or perhaps is on chemo and you're helping them, this will be great. I remember sitting by people's bedsides because I would come in with my harp or my flute, depending on the moment. And, I'd offer them a song, and I felt like the music was in a sense, my license to be next to these people and to have a wonderful experience with them. And after I'd play a song or two and they'd started to relax, I would ask them, have they experienced the essential oils yet? And most of them hadn't. And what I would do, this is how you can use it as an activity, okay? And I would suggest that you don't write right now because this is being recorded and you'll be able to access it later, and you can be fully present and you'll absorb it in a different way than just intellectually. So imagine you're one of your clients, you're one of your residents. You're sitting bedside somebody who's very ill. and they're in the middle of suffering. They're in the middle of a journey. They're wrapped up in their mind, in their pain and their problem. And you come along and you're a peaceful presence. And you just gently be there and you invite them or offer them. Ask them if they would like to do something with you that entails smelling. Okay? And you can maybe take them on a little journey. Like imagine if you were surrounded by a garden of flowers. And you could say, oh, look at that one over there. It's red and it's beautiful. Look at it. Its petals are soft and fuzzy. So they're going in their imagination. You're giving them something to take their mind into a journey. And you start to describe a flower to them. And then if you happen to have some rose water with you, you might spritz it just gently around. So it doesn't necessarily hit them in the face or anything, but just gently and say, I can smell that flower. It's a rose. Okay. Or you could say, I can smell that flower. It's red and it's got these velvety petals and it's so beautiful and it's very romantic. And let them be putting the pieces together. And so therefore, then you might even say, I wonder, what does that remind you of? Their mind, some people's minds are very organized and they want to identify. Some people will go to a memory. You can let them guide you. Okay, so always being on the giving and the receiving. Do you get what I'm saying so far? Okay, wonderful. So this is one-on-one. You could do a similar thing by, facilitating a guided meditation. Similar thing, you're in a garden. The garden could also have trees because some of the essential oils do come from trees and also from plants that don't have flowers, regularly have flowers. So by starting it with a guided meditation, you're getting them to relax. You're bringing them out of whatever it is that's annoying them or troubling them or paining them. And then the safest way to use the essential oils is by smelling them. Now, this is not essential oil. It's rose water and glycerin. And I love this brand. It's very pure. They even were making a food grade. Okay. So this is very beautiful. And I will often spritz it. It's often spritz it on myself. I talked before about me working in a hospital using this. And I often referred to the aromatherapy, the essential oils, and this as vibrational medicine. How many here, you can just raise your hand, how many here have heard of the term vibrational medicine? Nobody. Okay, I can't see anybody who is not, but okay, so we're all vibrational beings. We're all energy beings in a body. Okay, that's our costume. And I'm not talking religion. I'm just talking, actually, that's a scientific fact that we're all energy beings. And in order to exist, everything is vibration. This whole experience we're having is a culmination of vibrations. Now, where these come into play, remember I told you that the frankincense activates the pineal gland, as well as other things. It's very powerful. It's great. It's a great instrument. The frankincense is considered the king. So you think of the king as the top, right? And along with the king comes the queen as the myrrh. So the frankincense is a little bit more masculine, but you put it together with the myrrh. Individually, they have a very earthy quality, but you put them together, they become very sweet. And they're very powerful together. They're much more powerful together in ways than individually. However, I know a lot of people like to use mixes. I like to think of, just as I'm with my supplements, when I'm going to do supplements, I'll introduce one at a time. That way, if I have a good experience or an experience that is uncomfortable, I will know which one it was that wasn't working for me or that was working for me. I invite you to also consider that when you introduce the essential oils, don't just sort of put them all together. Don't go with a blend in the beginning. Just go with individual ones, and then you can make your own blends out of things. They react to each other. And so you can see what one brings it in, and to continue research, and deciding what ones work for you. So, are there any questions so far? If so, please unmute, raise your hand. So far, we've only got as one screen full of people, so this is easier to work with. So you can raise your hand, and I can call on you to unmute. Any questions so far? No. Okay. So the rose. Speaking of vibrational medicine and the king and the queen, guess what's above the king and the queen? The rose is the highest vibration. And so if you think of the rose, what are some qualities you think of when you think of the rose? Does anybody want to volunteer a quality that they think of? No? Okay. So I think of compassion. Mother Mary, or Kuan Yin, depending upon, what traditions, if you're Eastern, Western, there are certain goddess figures, feminine, divine, that are equate to the rose, and they're often also equate to compassion. So high vibration, if you're thinking, well, if somebody is not feeling well, it means their vibration is low. That was the first thing I learned when I was going through my journey with cancer. And I started to reach out and find out how I could help myself. The first thing I heard was that my vibration was not high enough. And my initial thing was, really? I'm a vibrational healer. What could they be talking about? I looked around, I'm surrounded by healing tools, vibrational healing tools. But then I got out of myself and out of my way, and I realized, well, I'm the one who was diagnosed. Let me look into this. My journey became about how I could raise my vibration, and that's how I use the essential oils. So I am going to now go over to a spreadsheet. And so I'm going to share my screen. And I want to share, I kind of try to organize in this little bit of time the questionnaires that I received. And so I'm going to share with you. Hello, welcome, and come on in, make yourself comfortable. And nope, that's not the one. Okay, this is the one. And I'm going to start on the questions. Excellent. So I didn't put the last names here just in case you wanted your own privacy, but I did want to put your first name so I could say thank you, Brianne. If you're here, thank you. I organize this in these different sections, as you see. So Brianne said that she wants to use it for low functioning residents. I put that in with the questions because a couple of people had mentioned that they do offer it already to people with dementia and low functioning residents. And also hoping to help residents with dementia of high care. Okay, so that is a concern. Since 3 people refer to it, I thought, well, let's look at that. And a couple of people have mentioned that they used it and they found that it was a good experience in general for the residents. The residents, there was no negative experience. And so that was a really good thing. I want you to know that it's likely to be a good experience. We're going to go over some guidelines, but this is leading into that. So another person, Dana, asked, what is the best way to showcase to residents to get them to interact or to be intrigued at least? So one person said that what happened was when she did her program, I believe she was doing the spa program, and what she said was that people would come because they would smell it. Okay, so that's very interesting. That I did use it when I was an activities director. I was an activities director for 3 months, and I got kind of frustrated because I felt as if my hands were tied in actually doing where my strengths are. I'm not really a big person on bookkeeping, not bookkeeping, record, doing the logs, filling in the logs, and all the the books you have to do, the notes and stuff. Okay, so Jennifer wants to know about the safest and cost effective for a group. So those are two very different things. Okay, safest, that could mean safest oils, safest uses. We'll be going into that a little bit later on today. And I think that safety is a whole other presentation, but I will touch on it today and give you a couple of hints. Okay, allergies goes in with safety. Now, Bryce also mentioned that Bryce is using like I wasn't able to take time to look into the brand that you mentioned, Bryce. And if you're here on the group, I would like to talk with you a little bit, in a little bit since I stopped sharing. Allergies are usually to perfumes. However, usually is not always. So there is a rare instance that an allergy will be with essential oils because, like I said, they're very powerful. And, there isn't, I think, any one thing that everybody in the world that it works for. So to be very sensitive, I'm going to go on a list in a little bit about the order of safety so that you can keep that in mind. Okay. So now the next question was, how are people using it in program? I just gave you the way that I would do it. And so that's recorded. I'm going to be sending everybody who inquired the recording so you can refer to this. Also, I'm going to be probably creating a report on this. And so that it will be more condensed, all the information will be more condensed. But for now, okay, Beth wanted to know about the facts, studies of what works. Now that's big. That's really big. The facts is really one thing, and then studies of what works. I would suggest that that we all stay together and perhaps create a Facebook group of aromatherapy as activity, and we can continue to explore what works and support each other on that journey. Okay, and we can deepen that as we go along, so that we can talk about later. Okay, and now another thing that Beth had was that her residents that she shared it with liked it. However, this is something I ran into when I worked at assisted living facility, was that the nursing staff and the assistant director they didn't like me. It seemed as if they really didn't like me. And they felt as if I was spoiling people because I was bringing them alive. I was giving them an identity again. I was bringing them into having reason to be awake. And so I know the feeling of having some people in the facility not being on board with some ideas that you may have that would benefit the residents. I was not able to resolve that when I worked there. It was getting to me and I resigned. But I don't suggest that everybody resign because they're facing a challenge. Diplomacy is always good if you can do that. If you're strong enough and if you've got your position strong enough to be there. And I think it can take time. Some people are not into change. Okay. Hearing about what worked for others in nursing homes. And again, that comes down to, today I'm sharing what I got in the questionnaires. And so we're going to be sharing more on some other pages here. So we're going to be addressing that. Are there any questions so far? Oh, did you get my shared screen? I didn't share my screen with you, did I? Okay, I'm going to give you that. I'm going to do that so that you can get the idea visually. Some people are visual learners. So this is what I was working off. I did what I could to get organized with the questionnaires that I sent out and received back. I only managed to get to the ones I received before last night. And so these are some of the things I just reviewed all of these. So now I'm going to move to the next page, but the next page is underneath my, good, okay. So the method that people used, did that follow along on the Zoom? Are you on the, it says spray on top? I'm going to change it. Here we go. So how did people offer it? They offered it with the diffuser. They offered it in a dining room setting on a cart and one-to-one. One person had little testers of a lot of scents, and I'm not sure whether those were all essential oils or whether they were perfumes. It's okay, Mr. Vicky. It's okay. I love you. Yes. And I can talk to other people too. Okay. He's gotten a little spoiled having me here all the time. Okay. So other people used as a spa treatment. I thought that was fabulous. I want to talk about the safety of that. That's going to come up in a bit. Okay. I thought that was very creative thinking. I'm not sure offhand who it was, but it was somebody who filled out the questionnaire, and another person used it as a spray. All great ideas with some cautionary tales. The little testers of every scent, if there were perfumes mixed in there, I would pull the perfumes out. I would also pull out the blends because, like I said earlier on, and for those who weren't here earlier on, when you're introducing things that are powerful like this, it is really wise to step one step at a time, just in case there's a negative reaction. Because if you're putting a whole mix of things, you don't know what that person was reacting to. And also that's a whole lot of energies, a whole lot of ways of expressing and all of the elements, Responses. People responded as either showing in their body language, because there was one person who said that the people that she was working with were not able to, they were nonverbal, but she would see it in their body language. So there was calming, peaceful, and relaxed. Again, remember I said in the beginning, most people were, I think lavender got 6 votes over the other ones, and that'll be on my next page. Okay, so relaxation, calmness, and peacefulness is a great thing, especially with what we're going through right now. So lavender, I think, it is like the most popular, and it is sort of like the jack of all trades, or the flower, the essential oil of all trades. It's really good at a lot of things. Is it the most beneficial for all things? No. But it really does lead very much in the calming, peaceful, and relaxed. It doesn't beat frankincense. I don't think anything beats frankincense for any of them, but frankincense is a lot more expensive. One person came upon resistance, and I mentioned that in the last page. And so she mentioned, if done right, it works. When you have staff that are not for it, let me change my, oops, can't do that. Okay. When you have staff that are not for it, they're either not going to do it or keep repeating the words that it really doesn't work. And yes, the mind is powerful. So if they don't believe that it will work, they're not going to use it. They're not going to go through the bother. If they're willing to try it as an experiment, then that would be great. They may one day have an experience with it that will change their mind. And, I wouldn't say give up on them. Say be light, don't pressure them, and hopefully they'll come around, and hopefully they won't deprive everybody of having at least the opportunity to try it out. Okay, so again, there was some resistance by nurses as well. Are there any nurses on this call? I can't see your response, but if so, please unmute yourself and just speak up, say that you're a nurse. Okay, well, sometimes I find what I found personally was when I got there, and I was very much about waking people up in a sense of giving them a sense of living in life again. People who were wanting to sleep all day in their chairs, I reached out to them and brought them alive. Well, that made it harder for the nurses because then they became in touch with their needs a little bit more. They weren't just numbing out. The nurses sort of resented me because I gave them more work instead of seeing what was, what really was really good for the residents to be living life and enjoying themselves. But it did make their job harder. So nurses can perhaps, they have a very hard job also. Their job is hard in a different way than ours is. So if you can team up with the nurses, that's great because they might find, and some nurses might actually be into essential oils. So perhaps you could share, have a conversation in the dining room or whatever. If there are any nurses that you feel are your allies, you could say that you came to this workshop today and you found out whatever you found out. And do they know about essential oils? And if so, what do they know? And would they consider it? And do they use it already? And all of that, right? So finding out where they're at on it can be a really wonderful thing. And if they're your allies, they're more likely to win. If you have the activities department and the nursing department on your side of wanting to use something, it's more likely to happen than if it's just you trying to get it done. Okay, so that goes for the person who is like, how can we get the upper ups to pay for it? Okay, so now here we go with the order of safety. So the safest way to use them is by smelling. There's a few ways you can have it smelling. Okay, so in the hospital, we used little pill containers. I, use little things like this for myself. Okay, and if you're with a resident or with a group of residents that are aware and they're not going to stick their fingers in it and put it in their eyes or put it in their mouths or any place else, this would be safe. Put a little bit of either paper towel or a piece of cotton, put a few drops in, and you have a little portable essential oil that will last for quite a while if you don't leave it open a lot. Okay. If you have a resident who you feel like you can trust with it, you can make little vials for them that they can have in their room. So especially, here we are, sometimes they're having to be shut down and in their room. If they have a little aroma kit with the names and what it's good for, and say, do not eat, do not put in eyes, do not touch the inside, just smell. And if they just keep it in their room, this would be a wonderful little gift you can give them. And it's not going to cost much to put 1, 2, or 3 drops in there. Remind them to keep it closed when they're not using it. Although if they're really having a hard time sleeping, they could sleep next to it, okay, with it open. And, it's worth a good night's sleep to then refill it for them the next day and put a few more drops on. So that's a safe way for somebody who is reliably safe and responsible, okay, especially if they're in lockdown. Or if you're in a group, you can pass them around and have them either identify. Or one of the things I did was I did not ask people to identify what the plant was, but more to get in touch with what thoughts came to mind when they smelled it. Did they have memories? Like with peppermint, a lot of people remembered the Christmas tree and Christmas time. With lavender, people would remember things like, oh, my grandmother She used to love lavender. And then, oh, what was it like being with your grandmother? She used to like to do this and that. And so it would take them on this beautiful journey away from their pain. Now, I was working in hospitals with people who were very, very ill. And they would go, when I go in the room, they would be like, ugh. And after that, they were like, wow, they were, they'd visited their grandmother, that had Christmas, that had all of these experiences, and they were not suffering for a period of time. It would last. So when they're not suffering, their own chemistry is shifting and they're getting all that dopamine, and that is nurturing them. So I recommend giving your residents as much of that dopamine experience as possible. That's, it's wonderful. Another way to do it is for those residents who you might be doing a group with the low functioning. So if you have it in a container that is, it's deeper, they can't stick their finger into it, but they can open up and smell it, and maybe even put a piece of cloth, between the top and this, so they can't poke in, but they can smell it. So a nice deep container. This is one of my supplements. So, it's nice and deep. And I'm sure you can find things like, from your supplements. Just put a piece of muslin on the top and then put the lid on it and have it be that you can open up the lid with a muslin. Now, you can do that with a group of low functioning. You can pass it around, or you can give each one. And then just, if you have a group, I would suggest just maybe giving it to one and asking that one person, what does that remind you of? And then having you pass it around, and the other ones can have heard that. They may not remember it, but then when they get to do it, they'll get to say what their experience is with it. And if they're not really talkers, if they're nonverbal, you could just watch them and see how they are. And in that case, if they're all nonverbal, you could give them to them all a different one and just watch how they respond to the different ones. Make note, it's a lemon. I see there was a smile on their face, where the other one, they may have kind of like shown that they're relaxing. Ginger has got a stimulating effect. It's good for digestion. It's also good for nausea. But, just ginger might remind them of food. They might go, I'm hungry now, So, sort of pay attention and see what reactions you get. Again, this would be the safest way for them, a deep container that they can't reach into, but that they can smell through the muslin. Again, just a few cloths on a piece of cotton wool, maybe cotton wool or paper towel that's in there. For travel, I use a plastic bag. Like if I'm going to go on a plane, I have a piece of fabric and I put some drops on that. And then I've got my own little portable essential oil right there with me that I can enjoy. And you could use a plastic bag, but I think for the residents, the best thing is either these two. This is the very safest. They're simply smelling it, but simply does not mean not powerful. The olfactory it tells messages to your whole body. It evokes memories. And you probably know all of this, so I'm not meaning to speak down to you, but just in case, I'm bringing it up to the forefront of your thinking. Now, some people use diffusers. I love my diffuser. However, somebody mentioned that they have a cat. Some of the essential oils are not good for cats. That's important to look into. I have a huge practice of essential oils. I'm very dedicated to it. And I just recently, over COVID, got a cat. So I have had to really pull back my practice and be aware. So the important thing is not to kind of hold your cat captive to a room that is full of the essential oil smell. And that's a whole other subject, and you can do some research on that. So it's the same thing. Like, if you don't know that the residents like it, like the smells, I wouldn't use a diffuser first. That's like after you've established that they like it and you found out the different effects. So with the diffuser, it's got a lot of really wonderful qualities because it is antibacterial for the air. So it's kind of good for the health of the residents, and some are more powerful than others. And you may even find that there are some that are antiviral. I'm not going to make that claim today because I may believe it for myself, but I trust a lot of things just from my own intuition, but in teaching it to other people, I say, do your own research on that until I have more substantial evidence. With topical, a couple of you mentioned that you are using it topically for people. I'm going to give you a warning for that, as well as ingesting. So you see here these levels. Level well, the safest is smelling. Number 2 is diffusing. 3 is topical. Before you apply it either to yourself or to anybody else, always test a spot. Hopefully not a spot that is bothering them. Here is a good spot if it's not an area that they already have pain. You don't want to add insult to injury just in case they're personally allergic to it. Rose and frankincense are the safest to put on the skin. They're in a lot of beauty products, but a lot of beauty products have a lot of other things as well. So I'm not saying just if something has rose in it, it's safe. I'm not one to put other chemicals on my body because, of my journey with cancer, I became very aware that whatever I put on my skin gets absorbed into my body and has to deal with. So number 1 is that a person can be allergic to it on their skin. They could be allergic to it smelling, and that's why you want to really treat it lightly and approach it slowly. But topically, you approach it slowly by placing it just on one spot and give it a couple of hours to see how it's worked for them. A couple that you don't want to put on their skin is the citrus ones. You do not want to put it on their skin because of sun issues. If you're going to take them out into the sun, that could cause blistering. So do some research to make sure what ones you're putting on their skin are going to actually be good for different things. And I can also put together another workshop with more research on that if you wanted. But this really was how to make it an activity. As far as ingesting, I ingest occasionally, and I used to much more. But again, that is the most controversial. And if you're going to do it for yourself, it's one thing. I don't necessarily recommend using it for cooking for other people or ingesting for other people in your facility, because you would need to do a lot more research before I would suggest that as an option. Okay, next page. Did it follow along to the essential oils page? Can you nod if you see it says essential oils used? Great. Okay. So lavender I might have gathered like 15 questionnaires. Lavender was used 6 times. Citrus was the 3rd, not knowing whether they were what kind of citrus. So I'm not sure if lemon or orange. Lemon and orange were noted 1 time each. Peppermint 2 times. Eucalyptus, tea tree, they're of a certain family, and peppermint and eucalyptus, you see what they are, 2 in 1. And tea tree, which contains some of the above. Again, tea tree is a mix. No, tea tree isn't. I'm sorry, that's melaleuca. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of thieves. Okay. So eucalyptus and tea tree are in the same family. There's a whole science behind all of this, and there are courses to take for that. Kosol and Copaiba, I'm not familiar with, but the same person who did both of those, okay? There are also these blends that people have used, and they have not had necessarily bad experiences, but like I mentioned before about how my feelings on blends, and also I'm not sure, the person who mentioned the fruity blend also mentioned they were like a consultant for a company. don't remember the name of the company, but it was the company that offered like, a sample of all the different smells. And it sounded to me like they may have added perfumes. So anything that is perfume, I'm not promoting because perfumes often have other additives, and that's where a lot of allergies are going to be triggered much more than pure essential oils. Breathe, I believe, is a blend, and Balance is a blend, and Past Tense is a blend by doTERRA. And then Any Uplifting that helps mood and energy. So most of them are going to help mood and energy. It depends upon what quality, what part of that, and uplifting. Like I said, lemon is like liquid joy. It's like liquid sunshine, So that's very cool. And here we are now with essential oil. Okay, so I'm thinking that this was really fun to put together. I wouldn't mind putting together other workshops that perhaps I would have more time to produce and make a little bit more cohesive with workbooks or, something more, more substantial to them. And I thought about, well, I could create one on safety because that was something that came up. And also the recorded activity of the essential oils to be done with live support. I could create programs. If you don't feel like you're a good like meditation facilitator, or you don't feel as if this particular way of doing it is up your alley, I could be there on a Zoom with you and with your residents, and you could be actually passing out the essential oils, and we could create together a program so that way you wouldn't have to go outside of your comfort zone. You'd have the experience of doing it with somebody else who is experienced doing it. I also, in putting this together, I remember doing workshops on and using for people who are in the hospitals and in activities in nursing homes, programs using different semi-precious stones, as well as color. I used to be a visual artist, and I enjoyed using color for healing, as well as sharing it in the workshops that I would present there. I also offer virtual harp concerts, which many of you may know. And I'm playing with the idea of doing trips in nature and talking about the different qualities of the different areas, but down to the ocean versus rivers and the different kinds of plants and trees, as well as guided meditations. So what I would like to know, I would like today, if you would share with me, perhaps in the chat, there is a chat, isn't there? Yes, there is a chat, and I see 6 people have written in the chat. So, okay, don't have a camera. My apologies, I'm finishing lunch. It's fine. No camera, no. Thank you for offering this. So nobody has done anything of their experiences. So we have about 15 minutes now. First, I'd like to see if my questions that I've answered have addressed any questions that you have, or if there are any questions that have not been addressed, please speak up now. So everybody is satisfied. They've got their questions answered. Excellent. Does anybody have anything? Okay, so you're interested in meditation and precious stone Zooms. Wonderful. What I will do is I'm going to send out a survey to you on, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Melody, and thank you, Darcy. What I'll do is I'll send out a survey to you all on the effectiveness on this and how I can improve it for future ones, as well as, please be gentle to me. I pull this together in just a few days. And so I would normally have a PowerPoint to show you, but I will for the next one. And please also, and they will also have suggestions for other ones that you might be interested in. And let's see, I want to make sure that I covered everything that I was here to, that I wanted to. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Okay, so I think one of the main things, I'm going to ask you, Thank you very much, Shay. I'm going to ask you, what was your main takeaway from today? What resonated the most for you? And whoever wants to speak, go ahead and speak. Just unmute yourself and go ahead and share. Anybody have any takeaways? Anything that they feel like, aha, that's interesting. I didn't think of that before, or I didn't think about using it that way. Okay, ask what memory comes. Great. Another thing besides memory is how do they feel? So memory can lead into how they feel. There's different people. Some people go, oh, yes, that makes me so happy. And that reminds me of. Other people are sort of a little bit more left brain. They want to identify it. They're sort of more, they're more that way. There's no judgment, but you can bring both sides to sharing the other thinking as well. So somebody may say, oh, that's lemon. And they may or may not be right. May not be the right smell. But you know what I would do in that case? I would say, yeah, I could see why you'd think that. In fact, and if it is true, it may be another citrus, right? But it reminds them of lemon. You go, well, it's very much like a lemon, and I could see how you would think that. What other thing could it be that's sort of like a lemon, but it has a different color? Perhaps it's orange, right? So you're leading them, you're empowering them to use their own sense of identification. And then you could take them on a journey. Have you ever picked an orange or a lemon off a tree? Have you ever seen a lime growing on a tree? Bring them into that whole experiential thing, and you can take them down a beautiful journey, one-on-one or in a group, because if you have a group, people will hear other people's experience, and it might invoke, or it might just plant a seed that they'll remember that same time, and they'll say, yes, that I remember that. So you can even go into, does that make you think of a color? Lemon might bring yellow to mind. Other colors may bring different, other essential oils could bring other colors to mind. And there's not really a right color or a wrong color. They're never wrong. It's their experience. So always, I'm always feeling like I can always suggest to them another thought and lead them into another thought, but they're never wrong. If it makes them think it's a lemon, that's great. And what else could it make them think it is? What else could it be? Right? So have it be just a beautiful, wonderful thing. You see here if there's any other questions. It reminds me of baking a pie. I got her recipe and found out the family did not have the recipe of hers. So that is great. Yes, when you bake a pie, that finding out what people's recipes are, that's aromatherapy on a different level. It's aromatherapy not using oils. So I think that's a wonderful thing to do. Having the chef go along with that and cooking family favorite meals that could invoke that smell, those memories of their childhood. And remember, not all memories are going to be positive ones. So, tread lightly and be conscious of it. Again, perhaps doing it, maybe one a week, or, see how it works in your facility. And if your chef is willing to go along with that kind of thing, you may have to do the investigating to find out what the family recipes were. And that can be a whole event. Bring your recipes, and we're going to share recipes. And, families can say, oh, we did this way. Well, we did our macaroni and cheese this way. And, I think doing activities that bond residents is a fabulous thing, so always, you probably know so much of what I'm telling you. I'm not really, I hope that nobody is thinking I'm being, condescending or talking down. I'm just trying to brainstorm so nothing is left out, just in case. So I think that, let's see, are there any other comments, or anybody have anything they would like to put in as far as some of their experience with using. Please include me in future lessons. I'm excited to learn more. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time in putting this program together. I never heard about vibrational energy, so that's something I'd be interested in, and we'll research this topic. Great. And yes, I will be staying in touch with you. You know what happened? I'm on MailChimp. I'm a self-employed person. And so I'm on MailChimp, but I'm not really great at MailChimp. It's taken me years to get friendly with it. And they just changed it. So when I entered all of your names in, the ones that you sent me your email, I thought, great, I'm going to make it easy for myself, put it in MailChimp and send out one bulk email. And it will be nice and clean and easy and organized. Well, it wouldn't let me put you in because you're not subscribed. So I am going to ask you, I'll be putting in a link for you to subscribe so that I can let you know about future events as well as other things. And that will come in the survey that I'll be sending you all, as well as the link for this. I'll be probably putting this video on an unlisted link on YouTube, because that's easier to share than sharing a link for a whole video. You probably, if you don't have Dropbox, it becomes complicated. So just so you know, and I might make that public. If anybody has an aversion to it being public, I don't think that your faces actually will be on it. It probably will be mostly all me. But if your faces are on it, I can edit that out if you have an aversion to it. But actually, I think it's something that you can feel real good about participating. It's nothing secret. Is there anything? Okay, when would you diffuse over active smelling? Only after you have done active smelling and realized, so that this is to Royal Terrace. Only use diffuser after you know that everybody who is in the room has had a good experience, has had an experience that is a positive experience with the essential oil that you're hoping to diffuse. Because that's a lot more, like then they're surrounded by it. They don't have a choice as to whether they hold it under their nose. That brings me to another point. If you are with somebody and you're one-on-one, don't just go like this and just like immediately put it right under their nose, like really fast. Approach it really carefully. Let them go towards it. Let them lead, make it comfortable, but don't kind of just put it right under the nose. Peppermint in particular is really powerful and really strong, but approach it really gently and let them reach to it, because by that you'll know whether they like it and whether it's evoking interest. Okay. Is it safe to diffuse a large group, and what sense? So again, only if that large group has gone through a group program of just the smelling. That could be like next week, right? You know what I mean? Like the next level of it. And so, we do have 2 minutes left. So I want to thank you and honor you all for being in a job that I could not do, but it set me free to do jobs that could support you. So I would really just want to thank you and honor you. And also, if you appreciated this, I could use some support myself, because my music business is sort of really, I no longer being able to go out and do activities. If you wanted to send me a PayPal, like a little donation to help support this, I'll put that link on the survey, and so that you can do that. No amount is too little, no amount is too much. Your facility can do it, or if you felt this was helpful for your own private use also, you're welcome to do that too. But in any case, I really appreciate you being here and being part of it, and using these with your residents and using them with consciousness. And remember, you're working with a being that has had a whole journey before it came to you. And we'll have a whole journey. We'll offer many journeys to the people who you're sharing it with, and it will continue giving. So thank you so much. Thank you to you and all your residents. Please send my love to your residents if you think of it when you do this. Bye for now.